to a show.
And we are live. Welcome back, Miss Teanna Taylor. How are you?
I'm good, Jake. Thank you for inviting me back on.
Oh, no, absolutely. You are one of the few guests that I wish I could have on more, actually. This is a third or fourth recording together. So I think that says enough. Like, oh, this is a guest that I think the fans like to hear, and I enjoy talking with you, and I'd like to think that you enjoy being on here. So
yeah, I do. Yeah.
Good. So last time we spoke, you had the knee injury and surgery and everything. So how's everything going with your recovery?
I can't remember exactly when the last podcast was that we did, but I had my second ACL surgery in 30 months back in March. And anyone who knows about ACL surgery knows that it's a really bad injury to have. The recovery time is really long, and it's really frustrating, and progress can be quite slow. So I'm still rehabbing at the moment, just taking each day as it comes. But I realized that after the second ACL surgery, my confidence really, really took a hit. It really did affect my identity as an athlete, because although I'm a blue belt and I'm not a world-class black belt, I do consider myself an athlete. I dedicate a lot of time to jiu-jitsu. I'm on the mats a lot. I teach jiu-jitsu. I co-run 2 clubs, and it's a very big part of my life. And I really did feel that I was losing my identity, and that was causing me problems. I just felt really, really lost. So I was carrying on with my rehab. It was a lot better this time, because when I had my first ACL surgery last year, it was before Spain was put into a state of alarm, which means that I couldn't have physio or rehab. And as a result, I developed fibrosis, which is the buildup of scar tissue. So even if I didn't need a second ACL surgery, I would have needed surgery in the first place to remove the scar tissue, except that would have been just more of a cleanup surgery, and the recovery time would have been really quite short in comparison. But this the second ACL surgery was for a partial rupture, as something called the Lemaire procedure, to strengthen the fibers of my ACL. The first surgery I had in February last year was for a full rupture. So yeah, it's been tough, but this time, despite COVID, I was put on an elite athlete rehab program by the hospital. And that meant that I attended rehab every single day. It was tough. It was not easy. It was not easy at all. But I was really grateful for that opportunity. So I did that for about a month or so. Then I got discharged from the hospital to rehab on my own. But I still felt like my confidence had taken a massive hit, and I had and still have a fear of re-injury. So one day I was on Instagram and I came across a guy called Dr. Carl Bescoby, and his at or tag on Instagram is Evolve Your Injury. And I contacted him back in April because I really liked his content. He's a sports psychologist, and he specializes in the psychological side of being injured, understanding the individual, not just the injury, and coming back stronger through adversity. And I was looking at his content and I was thinking, okay, this is someone I'd actually really like to work with. And he posted a lot about how how injury affects mental health. And that particularly got my attention because it's no secret that I have comorbidity with a number of mental health issues. So I did a little bit more research into him. He has a Bachelor of Science and a Master of Science in Sports Psychology. He has a PhD, a doctorate, in psychosocial health rehab from the University of Bath, which is a very reputable university in England. And I was like, this guy knows his stuff. This is the person that I need to be working with. I was actually quite nervous on our first consultation that he would not work with me. I was nervous because with my mental health issues, I might be seen as too difficult. But he didn't bat an eyelid, and we've been working together since April, and I've really come a long way. And honestly, you'd really be hard pushed to find someone better than Carl. He really knows his stuff. And my mindset around jiu-jitsu has changed slightly because of my injury. And with the work that I've been doing with Carl, I've actually finally accepted that I'm injured, because believe it or not, that was so hard to do because I was competing around twice a month. I was training so much. I was always on the mats. I was in great physical shape. So to go from that to not being able to train at all was so difficult. And like I mentioned, I feel like I'd lost my identity, and it was just a downward spiral. So I felt that I really needed support from a professional, and Carl has been absolutely amazing. I highly recommend him to anyone who has a sports injury. And to clarify, you don't have to have mental health problems to work with him. He supports meaningful experiences and psychological flexibility after injury. But for me in particular, and also actually a lot of people, the fear of re-injury is very, very prominent. So that's what we've been working on, and I've definitely seen some improvements.
That's good. It's interesting to hear, just to have someone that can focus on the mental health side or the psychological side of an injury, because that is something I think a lot of athletes or a lot of people in general tend to not really connect or even, factor in. You just think, oh, I'm hurt. And the thing is, it's so prominent. It's like right there in your face. It's just, I think it's so close that we just don't acknowledge it, because I know of myself when, I had my little baby rib injury, I was down for a month and a half, 2 months, and I was a mess. I mean, and, even with COVID taking, gyms away from a lot of people, and for a lot of us, jiu-jitsu is kind of that escape, and that's just our life. Our lives now is training all the time, competing, just being at the gym, and having that taken away. There are a lot of people that struggled, psychologically because of that, myself being one of those. But it is interesting though that there's someone out there working in that realm.
I don't think I could ask for better. He really does know his stuff, and because he is also an active researcher, he's not someone who's done a 3-month course online and then markets himself as a sports psychologist. He's got, as I said, a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD. He really does know what he's talking about. And like what you said was actually, I think, really important. When COVID hit, there were a lot of people who didn't have mental health problems, who then experienced them, or maybe didn't have any mental health problems, but then got injured and then later on developed them because of the injury. So he understands the importance of not overlooking mental health when you're injured. You don't have to have a diagnosis or diagnoses. That's really important to remember. But I feel very privileged and grateful that I found him and that I'm working one-to-one with him.
Well, that's good. Again, it sounds like he kind of zeroed in on a very overlooked aspect of injury. So it's good to hear, again, that you found them and you're all working together. With your recovery right now, how are you feeling as far as just movement, period, and getting around?
I can walk okay, but if I walk quite long distances, my knee does ache. But in comparison to where I was, I really can't complain. But before the surgery, I had significant problems going up and down the stairs, and that was due to internal meniscus damage. So during the second surgery, that was sorted out as well. I no longer have problems with stairs, which is great. But I'm taking things one day at a time, and something I've learned through Carl is that rehab is not linear. It's very much like a roller coaster. There are ups and downs. So I'm getting something I've definitely stopped doing is playing the comparison game, because I feel sometimes with injury, it's almost like a competition of who can get back on the mat sooner. And I don't want to play that game. It's my injury. And also my surgeon did warn me that because I was having a second surgery before I had fully recovered from my first ACL surgery on the same knee as well, it was going to take longer to recover. But where I'm at now, I'm pleased with, because as I mentioned at the beginning, ACL is a serious injury and a lot of people quit. A lot of people quit their sport because of it. But funnily enough, despite having gone through this twice, quitting hasn't crossed my mind.
Well, that's good. And I can say, just in conversations with you, I know that as a fact. It's like just talking with you, I know it's been a struggle, but the one thing that I never ever got the sense of is that you were done with jiu-jitsu. This, jiu-jitsu is that thing where I feel like, once you find it, you realize, this is what you love. This is what this is what you do. You don't want to let it go. So,
exactly.
I've always felt like in conversation with you, this is jiu-jitsu is here to stay with you. And, I'm excited for you, just to get back out there and compete. I think when I met you, I think it was right before, your surgery, a few months right before your surgery. So I don't know that I've seen you, compete or, talk to you, during like competition time. Also, it was during COVID, so competitions were shut down as well. So yeah, I'm excited and looking forward to, that time where you're back on your feet, you're ready to compete. Ooh, that rhymes. Look at that. Be a poet and wouldn't even know it. Woo. But I'm looking forward to that for you, just to see you get that joy back and run with it. So
I'm excited too, but I'm being sensible about things. I'm not going to compete until I'm fully ready to, both physically and psychologically as well, because it's not just a case of my knee being better, it's having the right mindset and being in that right mental space, which is why for me it's so important to have the support of a sports psychologist, especially one who specializes in injury, because I do want to compete and it is something that I'm very passionate about. But yeah, I am excited to compete again. It hasn't put me off competing at all, being injured.
That's good. And during your recovery, just going in for your checkups with your physician, how are they looking at it right now? How do they feel about it, as far as your timetable?
That's a good question. It's currently August, and in Spain, everything shuts down in July and August because it's summer. So I last saw my surgeon in June. He said everything was looking good. I'm due to see him again in the middle of September. But it was just last week I saw a physio who does BJJ, and I figured he would be a great physio to see, simply because he understands the sport. He's a blue belt as well. And I've still got some work to do on strengthening my quads and generally getting my legs as strong and my knees as strong as possible. But in terms of a timeline, the timeline and exercises I was given from the hospital, despite being on an elite athlete program, at the end of the sessions, or when I was discharged rather, I was given a generic program, which is not really apt for somebody who does jiu-jitsu. So I've had to change that, but I'll feel more reassured when I see my surgeon about where I'm at, and I have specific questions I'm going to ask him regarding my timeline, because obviously they don't generally see athletes. I had a brilliant surgeon, I can't fault him at all, but I do want to make the timeline a lot clearer in my mind. But as he did point out to me, I did have surgery on top of another surgery that hadn't healed. So my timeline is going to look different to somebody else's, who's going to look different to someone else's. So that's where I think comparison of recovery is not useful at all.
Sure. And the thing is too, everyone's body is different. So, the way that you heal might be faster than someone else's. Someone else might then heal faster than you.
Yeah.
And then also, like you said, you had surgery on top of, another injury that wasn't fully recovered. So there are things to factor in there. One thing that, I want to kind of go back to is the strengthening of the quad. Recently, I was having some knee issues at our gym. We were going over takedowns for the entire month, and almost immediately my left knee was just, after one class, I think I just destroyed my leg. I went to visit a friend whose wife is a physical therapist, and they asked, "Hey Dante, how are things? How's jiu-jitsu going?" I was like, I've been kind of on the shelf for a few weeks now. And his wife says, "Well, what's going on?" And I sort of explained, "Well, my knee's giving me some trouble. It hasn't been feeling too great." So she was like, "Here, come here." I was like, No, I'll be okay. She said, "No, come here." And my buddy goes, "Dude, just go. She's not going to leave you alone. Like, we're not going to be able to record or watch this movie or anything if you don't go over to her and let her examine your knee." So I go over, I sit flat on the floor, with my legs extended, and she asked me to flex my quad on my right leg. Everything was fine. And she asked me to flex my quad on my left leg, which was the knee that was giving me trouble. And I felt like I was flexing. She was like, "No, come on, flex." I was like, I am. I just did it 3 times. She was like, "Okay, so there's your problem. Your quad. You need to, strengthen your quad. What kind of stretches are you doing? What kind of work are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I mean, and it's funny because she's such a sweet lady, and she, the doctor came out in her, and I felt like I was being scolded." I was like, "Oh wow, I've known her for over 20 years." I was like, "I've never ever seen this side of her." I was a little scared because I was like, "Dude, I feel like I'm in trouble right now." But she gave me a handful of exercises and stretches to do, and almost instantly my leg felt better. I've been feeling fine since. But I think that strengthening the quad has a huge effect on the knee. Just the quad in general has a huge effect on the knee. So, and maybe everybody else knows this but me. Maybe this is just news to me. I don't freaking know. But yeah, hearing that, I was like, yeah, oh yeah, I know that. I get that reference now. She's talking about quads and knees. I know it. But good, I'm, in a few weeks, it sounds like, maybe 2-3 weeks, you'll be seeing your surgeon and getting everything kind of, reevaluated and checked out. So that's good upcoming too. Like, sounds like everything's going, in a good direction for you.
Yeah. I understand there will be ups and downs, but yeah, compared to last year with COVID, meaning I couldn't have access to anyone, that was really tough.
Yeah. And I think also just kind of touching back to things that you're saying, just understanding, hey, this ain't the end for me. I know that I'm recovering differently, but I am recovering. That's the important thing, is that you're recovering. There's some people that don't even realize that, you're recovering, but it's slow in small steps.
Yeah.
And we want that quick recovery. Give me the magic pill and make this go away fast, which there ain't one. Well, I'm sure there is. And
I think it's called growth, but I'm not touching that.
Hey, don't be putting our business out there. I know some people. Like, I don't know some people, but I know some people that know some people that might know some other people. So call me afterward if you need. I'm just joking for anyone that's listening. I don't know anyone that has any growth. So please don't at me at all, please. Like, on Tuesday I'll get all these messages. So, but you said you had the hookup. Like, the fuck if I did. Dude, I make things up 90% of the time.
Oh dear.
So yeah, I know also just during this time too, just with the recovery and competitions opening back up, that's got to be frustrating, but
Yeah, in the UK, competitions are opening up. In Spain, they're opening up. But I've accepted, and this acceptance has come with the help of Carl, my injury sports psychologist. I've accepted that I'm injured. I had, as I said, so many problems accepting that I wouldn't be able to compete anytime soon. And now I'm like, okay, there are competitions on. So if there are competitions on now, there are going to be competitions on when my knee is recovered. So I don't think I do, obviously on Instagram or social media, I see people competing, but I know that as much as it pains me metaphorically, it will physically pain me in a potentially catastrophic way if I was to compete now. So I've accepted I'm injured. I do what I can in terms of helping at the club with teaching some of the fundamentals. So I'm still involved in jiu-jitsu. I'm not just rehabbing on my own. I am around my teammates because social support's really important when you're injured as well. Mm-hmm. And I find sometimes I just go upstairs and stretch on the mats in the corner while my teammates are training and doing the main class. But yeah, with regards to competitions, they are back on in Spain. They've started up again in the UK, but unfortunately at this moment in time, I cannot compete. But in the future, I most definitely will be competing. There is no question about that.
Good. And has your team gone to any competitions recently that have opened up?
Yes, there was one a couple of months ago. And I think there were about 6 of our guys competing. And they all did well. For some of them, it was their first comp. Obviously, everyone had to be PCR tested, have the COVID test to make sure they were negative. Everyone was negative, which was great. And yeah, people are keen to compete. They've done well. One of our girls won gold. Another guy got silver. Another guy got bronze. I can't remember what. They're the ones that stick out because there are quite a number of fights. But yeah, the competition scene opened up here earlier than in the UK. But jiu-jitsu isn't going anywhere. That's something else I've learned. Jiu-jitsu is not going anywhere. The mats aren't going anywhere. So for me personally, right now, I have to focus on recovery, getting myself really strong, getting my mindset really strong, and as you quoted, your comeback will be spectacular. So I hope that is the case.
I believe it will be. Looking back on just not everything, not just the injury, but jiu-jitsu period, I guess kind of in a smaller window. Once up, sorry. What is something that you wish you would have done differently? Kind of, I guess in this kind of pocket of like the injury, like prior to the injury, what's something that you wish you would have done differently? I guess going into training and competition and everything.
To be honest, nothing, because I understood the importance of mindset from watching my partner compete, because when we met, he was a purple belt and I wasn't involved in jiu-jitsu at all. So I would travel around the UK watching him compete. And I have been working on mindset since about 2010. So quite a long time. And it wasn't for sport, it was for everyday life. And then obviously getting into jiu-jitsu, I saw how important mindset is. And when traveling around with my partner and watching him compete, I would see fighters lose their first match and they'd be really deflated, but they had another fight. So it's like, you've got to I was like, come on. I remember one particular competition. A guy lost, the other guy got his hand raised, and his opponent was looking at the ground really like disappointed, but he had another fight due to how the brackets were organized. And I was thinking, come on, dude, you've got this, you can do this. It's because the mind is so powerful. And I would say that's the most important thing I went into jiu-jitsu with, was understanding mindset. Now, just because I understand it, it doesn't mean I'm a master of it. I'm always learning. I'm always evolving. I really believe in self-growth and personal development. So you can never know too much. But to be honest, when training, competing, I don't think I would have changed anything. Maybe except I think actually knowing that you were meant to wear shorts under your gi pants, because I did not know that. And that sounds really stupid. That's not, especially when I had in my defense, but this still sounds really stupid. My partner and I did not train at the same club. But now I make sure I wear shorts under my my gi pants and not just my underwear.
My first so when I started training, for the longest time, I didn't have a gi. I was just showing up to gi class with no gi. Kind of disrespectful, I guess, in retrospect. My bad, y'all. But eventually I got a gi, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me. I was showing up, and even showing up for no gi, I was just showing up in basketball shorts. It didn't occur to me to wear those basketball shorts underneath my gi pants. So, and just I had a disaster, but it's okay. We learn. So
yeah, we live and learn. We live and learn.
Anyone listening who hasn't yet started jiu-jitsu, but you will eventually, like shorts under your gi, spats, something, not your drawers. Because if you go in there and like the gi pants start to sag down, yeah, we're gonna know your business. Unfortunately. So yeah, but hey, I mean,
it happens. It does. Yeah. It doesn't happen to me now, but I've still seen it happen since.
But that's the whole learning process. You learn and you keep going. Like you said though, there's always something to learn. So
yeah,
and that's just one of those important lessons of life in jiu-jitsu. So I guess kind of shifting a little bit now. Just general conversation and silliness from my side here, because because I've been looking at like a whole bunch of just like bizarre questions to ask on podcasts and have funsies with people. They're not going to be. No, I'm going to save the really messed up ones for my co-host on Columpton, because I like to throw him off with questions about just like not super personal stuff, but things that makes him like he'll get mad.
Oh, like, okay.
I'll ask him something like, "Hey, so what's like? Tell me something your parents might be disappointed in about you," and he'll pause and he'll look at me. He's like, "Why would you do that? Why would you ask me that question?" I was like, "Well, because I want to know the answer." and it goes both ways though. Because, if I ask the question, I'm going to give him an answer from my side too. I just like to ask him these questions without him having the chance to think about it, because I want it to be on the spot. And the unfair part is I got to think about it because I wrote the question. So I get to think about my answer. And honestly, I'm pretty sure I wasn't even truthful about what my parents might be disappointed in. I think I just made something goofy up.
Yeah, I would with that question, I would totally make up the answer.
It's like I honestly don't know what my grandparents who raised me, I don't know what they'd be disappointed in. I'm sure there's plenty to pick from, but I think I just made something goofy up, and I can't even remember that answer. I probably got to go back and listen to one of those episodes to find it. But for you, what's a bad habit right now that you have that you're trying to break?
In general?
In general.
Eating chocolate. Or rather, too much chocolate, I should say.
I don't think that's a bad habit at all.
It is when but when I want to get back down to my fighting weight. So in that sense, yeah. It is.
Okay, you win. I'll let you have that one. I know with you being from the UK, and actually because of you, I do have several listeners from Madrid, I believe, because after you were on the first couple times, suddenly I see downloads from Madrid and the UK. So thank you for that. So maybe this question and the answer may relate a lot to them, but probably to my listeners here in the US. Just get with it. Get some culture in your lives. But tell me 3 movies that you think everyone should see.
Shawshank Redemption.
Okay. I have not seen that.
What, really?
I'm going to make a list. I'm actually going to do an episode of movies that everyone has seen, beloved movies that everyone has seen that have not. And there's quite a few, and that's one of them. That's actually at the top of the list that I know I want to watch, and it's here on my TV. I just haven't. I want to sit down and commit to it. I want to put my phone away, computer. I want to be able to absorb it. So, sorry, go ahead. Okay,
so Shawshank Redemption. This is a tough one because I want to give 4.
Give 4. The original question was 5.
So oh, okay.
Okay. I could have done 3 because I was like, oh, this is kind of a rough one. So let me go ahead and just jump.
Oh no, I'm cool with this question. Okay, so number 1, Shawshank Redemption. Number 2, In Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith.
Haven't seen that either.
Yeah, you'll think someone's cutting onions in the room.
Yeah, I heard I would cry. So that's probably why I haven't watched it. Not that I'm afraid to cry, but sometimes crying takes a toll on me. Like,
it can be tiring, draining. So Shawshank Redemption, In Pursuit of Happiness, 7 Pounds, also with Will Smith. Mm-hmm. And finally, The Green Mile.
Okay, so I'm 50-50 there. I've seen 2 out of those 4. So look at that.
There's a quote in The Green Mile I really like, and it's where the prisoner, I can't remember his name, but he's on death row, and he says, "I'm tired, boss. I'm tired of everyone being ugly to each other." And I think that's very relevant to society nowadays because we're so divided in the UK, in the US. It's actually pretty sad.
Yeah, actually, about a year ago, I reposted that quote because it was election time over here, so that's exactly how I felt. It was just like, man, like I just talked to a friend the other day at work, and he stopped and asked, he's looking for, looking to rent, and the prices are just so high for everything. And the big part of our industry is supply and demand. We just don't have enough supply.
Yeah.
So the demand, prices go up. And, he says, well, prices are up because of, the new president. And I was like, well, I mean, probably, but not in this case, because we're 98% occupied. Like, we can't take, something we only have one of and then rent it for super cheap. Like the company's all about making money. That's what that's about. So, yeah, and then and as he started digging more, I told him, like, look, dude, I don't want to talk about this. Like, I don't talk politics because, as I always tell people, I don't know shit. I don't know enough about politics to get into an argument, but I do know about human decency, and I know that there's a lot of chaos going on right now, especially as it relates to our president and just poor choices. And it's like, look, dude, I don't know shit. I don't want to talk about it because us sitting here arguing about it ain't going to make anything better. It's just really going to divide us more.
Yeah.
And, with my friends, I like to keep a good collection as far as like just diversity, no matter what you vote, no matter what you feel in your heart about certain things. But I also keep in mind with, all my friends that we all have our own opinions about things and how, we view it and how we think it should have gone. But at the end of the day, that's no excuse to call someone a name or mistreat a friend. Because I've seen tons of friendships end over political beliefs, and it's extremely
It's such a shame. It's such a shame, isn't it? Because you can have different beliefs and still have respect for people's different opinions. But I think the problem is when they really try to impose that opinion onto you, not respecting your beliefs, whether you're apolitical or you support whichever party.
Yeah, it's like, I'm the kind of dude that I really don't care. It's like, it's just what's affecting my moment right now. And I know people can then break it down to, well, this president's here and he's doing this and that's going to affect you. And then we're going to be in concentration camps. It's like, whoa. Like,
that escalated quickly.
Yeah. Like, dude, chill. But it gets really, really gross. And yeah, like you said, it's exhausting. I'm tired. Like, we need to care more. That's a quote from Knocked Up. Care more. But
I think I have seen that film, or I've seen some of it because I probably fell asleep at some point.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. You know what I like.
I've watched that movie more times than any human should watch any movie, probably. Just because of just all the goofiness to it. It's like, this was before I became a parent. I was like, man, I hope that's not what it's like. And then I realized, like, well, I don't go to bars and have one night stands, so it shouldn't be that way. But either way, we need to care more. We need to just, I always think that there are people that are doing what they think is good that may not be good to someone else. Good and bad are at times a point of view. Now, there are things that are bad, that are genuinely bad, that we know are bad. But there's sometimes people are doing things where they feel like they're doing the right thing. But for someone else, it's definitely not the right thing. So it's just, I think there are times where we need to take a step back, think, and say, hey, how is this helping everyone? Like, how is this going to work in a, positive way, or as positive as possible for as many people as possible? So, wow, that got a little too serious. Look at me today. What's a movie plot or twist that just kind of caught you off guard and blew your mind?
The Usual Suspects.
Ooh, that's a good one. I forget all about that one so much.
Yeah, Kaiser Soze. Yeah, I've probably pronounced that wrong. Someone will
Nope,
likely correct me.
nope. That was exactly it. Yeah, at least from the movie. So let somebody say he was wrong. All right, go tell that to Brian Singer and Kaiser Soze. Like,
That's a
then tell us
great
who's wrong.
film. Maybe
Yeah.
I think that's probably the fifth film someone
Hmm.
should definitely see. Yeah, great
Yeah.
film.
Yeah. There are a lot of those good like from that time period too. It's like there's so
Yeah.
many good twist films like that. Seven.
Oh,
Um.
Seven is amazing. Seven is so good.
Fight Club.
Yeah.
All of those movies had twists. Like, so I'm not gonna ask that to my buddy because he loves Fight Club, and I know if I say, "Tell me a movie that had a twist that blew your mind," and he'll say Fight Club, and then he'll go into trying to discuss Fight Club with me. He's like, "Dude, I've seen fucking Fight Club. God knows how many times. I've seen it so many times I don't like it anymore. I'm like, I hate
Yeah,
this
that can
movie."
happen. That can happen, definitely.
So, and the thing is, I want to like it. I want to love that movie because it's so good. But it's like, dude, relax. Like, there are other good movies out there. But yes, Usual Suspects with that twist. And I feel like I was aware of that before it happened. Like, someone maybe told me, and I still watched it, and it still blew my mind. So,
Another film. It's not as well known as The Usual Suspects. Is called Side Effects. It's got
mhm.
Catherine Zeta-Jones in it, and it's about a woman who is told she's mentally ill, and there's a big plot twist which I won't spoil for listeners.
Yeah, because I'm aware of the movie, but I haven't seen it. But it's actually been popping up on like things on my TV, not recently, but like I want to say in the last 6 months. So now I'm going to check it out. Plus, Catherine
It's really
Zeta-Jones is
good.
like, I really like her. She's a good actress.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that good answer. Good answer.
Thank you.
I know you like documentaries, who like
I
true
love
crimes.
them. Yeah.
Do you remember or recall a true crime case, like, and seeing it on TV and following it growing up, or maybe not growing up, but in the past?
Um, Something that really affected the UK was the murder of two police women. They were called to a house in Manchester, and it was because a guy, infamous guy called Dale Cregan, had phoned the police saying someone had put a concrete slab through his back window. That didn't happen. Really, he just wanted to kill the police. He hated the police. And the two female officers were sent out, and their superior believed it was just a routine visit regarding what would be not too serious a crime. I mean, you don't really go around smashing people's windows. That's not cool. But they didn't think that the officers who were sent would be in any danger. They thought they were just going to speak to this individual.
Sure.
And he had previously, I think, shot two other people, and he shot both officers when they arrived. That was massive in the UK because they were police, and it really it was in the news a lot because, I mean, in the US, a lot of people have guns, but in the UK, it's gang members who have guns. We don't have concealed carry licenses or anything like that. No, don't have guns for protection. The gun culture is so different. It's to me mind blowing. But for Americans, I've spoken to Americans who find it mind blowing that we don't have guns in the UK. But so this was a massive case, and a very, very sad one. Very sad one.
It sounds, I mean, especially given the culture there and how this went down, that sounds, just very it's like there's so many questions.
Yeah.
So
there are also so many documentaries on it if you're interested.
I am actually, because I'm always interested in, when stuff happens here in the U.S. I mean, it's almost like we have so many documentaries about all the little things that happen here, whether it be the Son of Sam, Zodiac Killer, the Night Stalker, Jeffrey Dahmer, things like that. There's so many documentaries and so many different movies about these individuals, and it's almost kind of like you're desensitized to it. But to hear about something, in another country, where the culture is completely different, it's like, okay, I want to hear that story, because having not left the United States, just I've never left the US. I don't know what it's like elsewhere.
Yeah.
I only have accounts of other countries, with speaking with individuals like yourself, my friend Johan, who's up in Sweden, my friend Andy, who's in Northern Ireland. I get conversations with you all, and it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. I never knew. I still can't really understand. So, to see, a documentary, or just kind of dig into that case would be interesting to, just kind of unfold.
Yeah.
So here, there's almost so many. It's almost like true crime is like our culture at this point. It's growing up, there's the Oj Simpson case.
Yeah.
And it was huge because he was a star athlete, and on the cusp of becoming he'd been in the Naked Gun movies. He was supposed to be the Terminator back in the early 80s, and here he is now being chased by the police in his white Bronco. And
I've seen a lot of documentaries on him as well. It's crazy.
And then one that I remember I don't want to say clearly, but the Jonbenet Ramsey case.
Oh yes. The reason I really like there's a particular documentary that's in 2 parts, and the reason I really like that is because I'm really interested in forensic linguistic analysis. So like I would love to work with the police and analyze language used by suspects. And that ransom note, when the language is analyzed, it's extremely interesting.
I remember being in Detroit for Christmas that year visiting family. And I remember that story was all over the news during Christmas time. And, I think the reason why it's interesting to me, and it's, at first I was kind of annoyed by it, because being in Detroit, violence is almost kind of a norm there.
Yeah.
And a woman had been shot and killed, and she was pregnant. Her child was they was able to birth the child. Mm-hmm. They never found the killers. It didn't sound like they were looking for the killers. Meanwhile, on the national stage, we got this story of this little girl, who had been, murdered. And I remember just being kind of confused, as a kid, like, well, why is this not getting coverage? This is only local coverage, but this is national coverage because that's in Colorado. And I'm here in Detroit right now hearing this story, but I bet they're not hearing this story from Detroit in Colorado.
Yeah.
But then when you really look at it, though, too, it's just, as I got older, I kind of understood. It's like, look, this is kind of a big thing, because what the fuck is going on? Somebody, broke into their house and tied their kid up and then killed her. Like, this
and put her in the basement and practice the ransom note 3 times, and it was 3 pages long.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, this is a fucking movie. Like,
yeah,
this isn't real life, is it? So, but the Jonbenet Ramsey and the OJ, which oddly enough are like kind of back to back to each other. So those 2 cases, I know for me growing up, just, you couldn't get away from them. And then years later, I think there's a TV series called The People versus Oj Simpson that I thought was really well done. That was on. That series is on. It's called American Crime Story. Kind of based off of, it's by the same creators who did American Horror Story, and I was hoping they would do a story on the Jonbenet Ramsey case, which I'm sure they might do it, but as soon as they talked about kind of the theme behind that show, like taking real cases and kind of doing a reenactment based on a book of some sort, I was really hoping they go into the Jonbenet Ramsey case, because I feel like that's just a huge one. And I guess on one note of it though too, there is, when you do something like that, as much as the general public, we're entertained by this, we want to see it, we want to know more, there's still survivors and family members that this is probably hurtful to see over and over again.
Yeah.
Like the death of Gianni Versace. They did that story as well. And I believe that, his family, they were not happy about, that series being done. And just, they're like, there's a lot of things to the story that's not at all accurate. So I don't know. And that was another big one too. All those things were all kind of in the same time window, within like a three-year window of each other, I believe. So wow. Like, the US is off the chain. We need to chill. Sheesh. I don't know, but yeah, those are I'll be interested in that case, if you don't mind sending me,
of course,
some sort of titles for that after the fact. Hey, it's share time. Share with us, the listeners, 3 things that people may not know about you. Within comfort.
Okay. I used to want to be a journalist, and I interned at Vogue, which was a pretty big deal, because they accept 36 people a year and get around 42,000 applications a year. And I was one of the 36 in 2008. 2 other things. I used to be a competitive track and field athlete. I was particularly good at high jump and the 100 meters. It annoys my boyfriend that I can run so fast. We had a race and he beat me, but not by much. 3rd thing, people think I'm Spanish. I've got Spanish blood. I'm not at all. I speak very good Spanish, but I'm actually half Caribbean. My mum's from Barbados and my dad is English. And a lot of people don't know that. People in the UK think I've got Spanish blood in me because I speak Spanish, and my bachelor's degree was a double major in Spanish and English literature. But when I'm in Spain, the Spanish know I'm not Spanish. They think I'm South American, because my look is very, I get Brazilian all the time. If I had a real, which is the currency, for every time I got mistaken for Brazilian, I'd have enough money to go and train BJJ in Brazil.
Well, I mean, just based on what you described, though, you're not making it easy for people.
Well, that's not my fault. What can I say?
It's like you're double majoring in, so yeah, the look's not your fault. But
no, that's not my fault. That's not my fault.
And I will say that I've had people who've asked about you as a guest on here, and with you being in Madrid, everyone's like, "Oh, the Spanish girl." I was like, "Well, she's not Spanish."
Like, you heard me talk. I'm like, I've got a very British accent. My accent is very southern, very southern. Yeah.
So, and it's funny because it's like people have heard the episode and they hear you talk, and it's like, so wait, you mean to tell me you've listened to this woman speak and you hadn't seen her other than like if you go onto her Instagram, she's from Madrid, or she's in Madrid, so you immediately just connect, oh, Spanish, she's Spanish, look at her,
my name is not Spanish at all.
Well, people,
they're interesting, people are interesting.
Yeah, well, I've had people at work, when they call work and I answer the phone, and they come into the office and they see it's me, and they're like, "Oh, no offense, but we thought you were white." I'm like, well, I'm not offended, but what should I have sounded like? Just based off of what I look like, and it turns into an interesting conversation. I have fun with it. It's all fun and games and jokes. I'm lighthearted about it, but some people actually get really offended. It's like, oh,
yeah, it's a stereotype. It's a
Yeah.
stereotype of how people sound.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always find it interesting. Like, well, there's certain like tenants. Both my manager and I, we're black, and when we have to call people to collect rent, we'll look at certain names and we'll stereotype. And we're like, oh, let me call this one. And then I'm not even gonna repeat what I've said on answering machines and in what tone, but it's like, look, I can play this game too.
Yeah.
So it's always interesting what people may know or may think or may assume about us. So,
Yeah.
Ooh, I have a question though. Knowing that you lift weights and stuff, you strong. What's your favorite lifts?
Deadlifts without a doubt.
Perfect, because I'm sitting here looking at my weights right now. I was like, I hope she says deadlift, because that's all I had, well, not been doing, but all I really have my basement set up for deadlifts. Like nothing else. I don't have a bench anymore. But what's your max on your deadlift?
I don't know what it is in pounds, but in kilos, it's 140 kilos. I don't know the conversion.
Let's see here. That looks like that's 7 of these plates here. So that sounds like a fucking lot.
I can lift a lot, yeah.
Look at you, girl. See, you're gonna be back out there in the mats in no time, strong in knees, everything, like just breaking people up. What's your favorite submission?
Oh, good. A very good question. I'd say triangles and footlocks.
I was hoping to say triangle because I was like, look, deadlifting, you're gonna go out there and triangle people and snap the necks. I mean, you get a murder charge for that. But
I'm just under 5'7", but I'm basically all legs. I've got very long legs, so that serves me pretty well with my game in jiu-jitsu.
For some reason, I thought you were a little taller, not much taller. Like I thought you were like 5'9". I'm almost certain you told me you were 5'7", but in my head, I think I just said, no, you're 5'9".
I definitely didn't tell you I'm 5'9" because I'm not 5'9".
No, I'm certain I just made it up. I think I was just like, I don't believe that. 5'7", nah. I'm gonna add 2 more inches there. You're 5'9" now. But then when I see people, like I had a friend, she said she was 5'11". I suspect she was misquoted. I'm certain she said 5'11". But when I went to her wedding and she's in heels, I think she was in heels. I was taller than her, and I'm not 5'11". I was like, maybe I just made up 5'11".
Did you? Maybe she said 4'11". I don't know.
Well, I hope not. Like, it's like, oh my goodness. Like, then her heels were super heels. I mean, I was only slightly taller than her. I think I was like an inch taller than her. But it was an internet friend I had never met in person. She invited me to her wedding.
Oh, that's nice. That's really sweet.
It was a fun experience. We flew down to Florida. It was just basically like we flew down on a Saturday morning, landed, went to the wedding, went back to the hotel, ate a pizza, woke up the next morning, went back to Maryland. And when we got to the wedding, like I meet her and her husband and got a picture with them. And the only picture I got with them, my eyes were closed.
No.
I look like a doofus. I was like, oh, are you shitting me? If I could go back in time, that's the one thing I would change in time. I wouldn't go back and like do anything heroic. I would go back and like, dude, open your eyes. Just have a good picture. If you could travel back in time though, when would you go and where would you go?
Good question.
Right?
Good question. Where would I? Back in time, I would say the swinging 60s because it looks like everyone had fun there.
Here or there?
Oh, the UK. I don't know what the 60s were like in the US.
Nah, girl, you don't want to come over here during the 60s.
No.
It was rough. Like I wasn't there, but I heard some stories.
Yeah.
Rough
Yeah.
times. But that's cool. Like, see, now I'm like super interested, like in your culture. It's like, oh, I want to know about that now. Like, people are having a blast in the '60s back then. I got to know more.
People. Yeah, look. I mean, obviously, I wasn't around, but yeah, it looked. People were happy, spreading love, and just not. It's not literally swinging. Maybe that did go on. I don't know, but you know, people.
Who knows?
People seemed happy. You know. So yeah, I'd say that period.
So I think the '60s was similar, like the late '60s were similar to that as well here, because you had the hippie movement and
Yeah.
you know, Vietnam was kind of a thing, and you know, Woodstock and you know, STDs and swinging. I don't think it was swinging. I think it just everybody loved each other, which is a beautiful thing. Good, but you gotta kind of think though too. It's like y'all are loving each other too much. Ain't any of y'all taking a shower? Because from the pictures I've seen, they weren't taking showers. I know they were. I could smell some of them through the picture.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, when I was in junior year of high school, we had to do a report, and really what it was is like our teacher was the football coach and the other teacher was the soccer coach. I think this was kind of like their way of like, look, they're about to learn and we're not about to teach. So they put us into groups and they made us all do a report on the '60s. And everybody had to kind of take a section. Someone would take, you know, sport. I think I was in the group that did sports for the '60s, maybe. I don't even remember now that I think about it. I don't know that I did anything. I think I might have had to look up cars of the '60s and I didn't know what I was doing. So I just pulled an encyclopedia and just started pulling pictures of cars that are from the '80s. And I'm pretty sure this one girl in the group, she just did my part of the assignment. I got the A and I was like, yay, thanks. But yeah, it was like the '60s was kind of a interesting time over here. You know, again, you had, you know, the hippie movement, you had Vietnam going on, you had the NFL was becoming a, you know, a thing now. So sports was really picking up. Politics was a little weird. You know, it was, the '60s would be an interesting time to see from the outside. I don't want to go back because over here, I know there's still like a lot of stuff going on with the civil rights movement and just, you know, black folk weren't at all in a good position of anything. So I like to see it visually, but I wouldn't want to be there physically to experience it.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, totally.
But I mean, I feel like for black folk, that's a lot of times in history though. So, you know, it's like, I don't want to go back to this time, that time, or this time, but maybe to the future. I don't know. Cause I like to know what's going to happen in what we're in 2021.
Yeah.
I want to know what 2041 looks like.
Yeah, it's interesting because even now it is hard and there's a lot going on. Yeah. Especially in the States.
I think, like I always say to my friends, with us being in our 40s now, it's weird because 20 years ago, if you're in your 40s, you're not starting jiu-jitsu, you're not out playing basketball, you're not recording podcasts or doing fantasy football, you're not playing video games, you're doing 40-year-old stuff, which I don't know what the fuck that was. But, you know, I'd see, you know, I had one friend whose dad played video games, but everyone else on the block, everyone else's dads were like stressed, like going to work, come home, reading a newspaper, taking that pass out on the couch, you know, shit like that. And this one dad, he smoked weed and played video games. He worked, but he also smoked weed and played video games. And we're being told, you can't do that. That's not an adult. I was like, nah, Dave's doing it. Like, Dave's doing pretty well at that. Like, as a matter of fact, he's winning at life. Like, all your hair is gray. Dave's got a beautiful head of hair and it's all dark. And I don't think he dyes it. So, I don't know. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
A teacher.
Haha, twins. Me too.
Yeah, this sounds really lame, I know, but I'm going to share it anyway. I used to write down all the names of people in my class and people I knew and take the register, write a register. I was only about 5, so give me a break. But so I'd write down the names of everyone and take a register. And then I became a teacher, and taking the register became a bore, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. I've just always had this thing about teaching, and then so it was teacher first, and then moved more into academia, researching and writing papers, etc.
I think there's something, a characteristic to people who teach and who want to be teachers. I could see that with you, just from what I know of you. That it's like, that seems fair. Sorry, my wife's vacuuming upstairs, and I could hear the vacuum right above my head. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, vacuum. I think most of the students that I graduated high school with in the class of 97, I think a good deal of them all became teachers.
That's interesting.
So, I taught preschool for several years, and I was like, I initially went to school to do elementary education, and they wanted me to go and fill in at a preschool to kind of get a feel for the classroom, which the classrooms aren't at all the same at all, not even close. And I enjoyed being in the preschool setting because they got to play. We got to go out on the playground. We got to build with the blocks. And I was like, dude, I like this. Oh, we got art too? Cool. So, we get snack? You guys get fruit punch? Oh, man, I want to do this. So I just... I was like, let me change my major. But I think education is an important thing. And I wonder how many people, because I've run into teachers who are just teachers, not because, I don't know if it's because they've been a teacher for so long, they're just over it now. Or
there are a lot of people like that, without a doubt. Yeah.
Like, my 3rd grade teacher did not seem like she wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah, you can always tell. Nice, you can always tell. You pick up the vibe.
Like when we would come to class, we get in school, and she just didn't seem like she wanted to be there. But my 4th grade teacher, she was wonderful. She is still my all-time favorite teacher, Mrs. Manders. And she just you could tell she enjoyed educating, and you could see it in her students. I wasn't the greatest student, but in her class, I was well behaved. And not only that, she had this nature to her that, it was motherly.
Yeah.
And for me at that time in my childhood, I needed a mother. I was at that point, I was in foster care. My foster mom was great, but I was a, 8-year-old, 9-year-old kid that didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was just like, hey, man, I don't see my mom every day, but Mrs. Manders is really awesome, and she's filling that void. She actually very much reminded me of my grandma. Because when I moved in with my grandmother, I still got those feels of Mrs. Manders. So big shout out to Mrs. Manders back in Flint, Michigan. So that was really it. Kind of went down a little rabbit hole there. Well, hell, I don't got no more questions. So I guess we can go ahead and wrap ourselves up here. Teanna, thank you very much for doing this. It's always a pleasure having you on as a guest. So
thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
No. Like I said, I would, if it were up to me, I'd have you on as a guest every week, or at least every other week, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
Like, I think at some point people would just be like, why don't you guys just fucking make a show? Like, good call. But thank you so much. I greatly appreciate that. Would you like to do any shout outs or mentions before we get out of here?
Definitely a shout out to Dr. Carl Bescoby, the injury sports psychologist who I've been working with. As I said, he's on Instagram at Evolve Your Injury. He is the man to work with regarding getting back into sport following injury and focusing on dealing with your fear of injury. Also, huge shout out to Hyperfly Europe for their continued support, and my sponsor, Chris at Excess Guard Mouth Guards. Always make sure my teeth are well protected in both training and competition.
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
I had something to say and I was like, I forgot. I'm so glad. See, this is why I don't do live shows. Although it might be more genuine because people are just like, oh, look at them. They're laughing and being silly. Like, no, it's just that I'm dumb and I forget stuff. It's not me being silly. So, all right, cool. Excellent. And with Miss Teanna here, she can also be found on Instagram at Teanna_Taylor_BJJ. I always mention everyone's Instagrams because that's where I tend to talk to most people. So that's where y'all can find her as well. Also, I want to throw a shout out to Armbar Addict. This is a Instagram account who actually is run by Eric and Allie. Also on Instagram. I don't have their handles on me right now, but they are starting up a t-shirt and rash guard store. So definitely go check them out over at Armbar Addict. And they've got some pretty cool videos that they've been posting, some pretty funny TikTok videos they've got going as well. They posted a video recently and this song is stuck in my head. I just keep seeing them dancing. It's like, here it is. TikTok is taking over. So big shout out to those two. Also, as always, shout out to Student BJJ. That's Zach over there on Instagram. And last big shout out to the Columpton Social Club. That's my other show with my good buddy Steve. But he likes to go by Thor.Bentley on Instagram. So go find him. But his real name is Steve. His middle name is Thor. And for the longest time, he was embarrassed by that. And then the movie came out. I was like, you son of a bitch, don't you try to cash in on that name now. You passed that up for years. If I had the letters THOR, my name, anywhere out of my first, middle, and last name, you'd be calling me Thor. So I don't.
That's a great name.
It's fucking awesome.
That's an amazing name.
Dude, I remember when my wife was pregnant and she was like, if it's a boy, do you want to name him Thor? Because she was like, to be spiteful. And I was like, fuck no. Like he diminished that name. Fortunately we had a girl, so we didn't have to worry about that. We already, when we started dating, we picked out a girl name. It was kind of weird, like very early on. Like when I say started dating, like probably like 3 days in, like, so if we had a kid, we're gonna name it. It's like, are you hinting at something here? Like, no. Like, okay. But yeah, check out the Columpton Social Club on Instagram, Facebook. There's a TikTok somewhere. I think I run the Twitter. And the podcast. So check us out, y'all. But otherwise, thank you, everyone. Again, you guys are great. I'm always having a blast doing these shows and having wonderful guests on as well. So because of you all listening, it gives me the motivation to keep doing this. So thank you. So as long as y'all keep listening, I'm going to keep making this. So thank you so much. I love you guys. Mwah.
Deep with it. Now let me sing a song.